My name is Paul Barron. Welcome back to Metaverse Insider. And getting into it today, we thought, hey, and we talked about this on Twitter, is getting a couple of VeVe experts to really join us and dive deep into what VeVeverse kind of means for the market, but also I think means for collectibles as a more of an entirety, from an asset class, but also around the OMI token, all that good stuff. So joining me today, of course, is FosterHilt. You guys see him out there on Twitter all the time. And of course, VeVeFox. Kelly, great to have you guys on the show today.
Thanks for having us.
You bet. All right,
Thank
so
you.
guys, I think the VeVe community already understands and recognizes both of you guys in the market. You're very active on Twitter. A lot happening, around what was going on at VeVeverse, and even to a certain extent, I think a lot of people were somewhat surprised, but at the same time, there was some expectations. I want to jump over to a couple of slides that was out there. And the first one I want to go to is this one right here. And this one was the technical capabilities. This was some screenshots that we pulled from some of the presentations. They talk a little bit about multiple device support, game engine agnostic, cloud streaming, all those kinds of things, all the way down into their LOD support, level of detail. When you look at the technical capabilities of this, is there anything that you guys really saw that kind of stuck out that says, hey, this is something that is kind of unique and different for me? Foster, let's take off with you.
Yeah, for sure. So I think that there was a couple things that kind of spoke to me on the technical front. The first one being multi-chain agnostic. So what that essentially means for people who don't understand is that you'll be able to use the VeVeverse, whether it be on a VR headset like an Oculus Quest, or through any of the other headsets that are going to be released over the next few months or few years. But what it also allows you to do is use the VeVeverse on your smartphone, or use it on a Mac, or use it on a PC. And because they're actually hosting the VeVeverse via cloud services, you will actually be able to basically load that out wherever you are in the world. So even if you don't have, a top of the line gaming computer, you just have kind of a lower end smartphone, because all of that data processing is being offered on cloud, you're just going to get so much of a better picture, a better resolution, and everyone is really going to be able to come in and enjoy this.
Yeah, I think the scenarios, especially as we start to see a lot of these Web3 platforms really develop, the technology hookup that's going to be needed, whether it's through mobile or some of the the consoles themselves. Kelly, do you see this playing out on consoles themselves, maybe like an Xbox or a PS5, anything like that?
Yeah, definitely. I think, especially we also see in gaming that everything is moving kind of cross-platform as well. So I definitely think like people at home, they are, when they are used to use their consoles, such as Xbox or PlayStation, then they will enjoy the VeVeverse there. But then again, if you're on the go or something, then you will want to also connect, and then it's much easier to also go and do it on your laptop or on your phone. And so I think it's also a huge benefit to have it like agnostic, game engine agnostic.
Right, exactly. Well, I think this is something that has started to make its way into Web3. I think a lot of people in the beginning were really directing toward mobile. The likelihood of us seeing this on, major league consoles was eventually going to happen. I think a lot of people still believe that's going to be kind of the direction. I'm still thinking of things like Sandbox and others that will most likely make their debut in a bigger way than what we've seen, even with some of the things around Epic and all of that. When you look at other technical capabilities, Foster, I guess when I look at not only MetaQuest, this recent drop from Facebook and Meta, a lot of improvements on that device, still though very expensive. Do you think that is going to be any sort of, pushback from, general gameplay, but in general, I think in the essence of people that might be able to, dive in a little bit deeper on something like an $1,800 MetaQuest scenario? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think a barrier to entry is something that VeVe is really trying to lower the bar on, so that anyone who has access to a smartphone or a console, which you can pick up for a few $100s, or if you already own one, or whatever the case may be, they're doing a really good job of balancing out the technical capabilities so that anyone can access it. And you were really hitting on an interesting point when you were talking about the sandbox and the way that technology is evolving, because one of the other technical capabilities that is going to be released is TypeScript in different ways
Right.
for people who can code or create items. And we look at some of the biggest games to date, Minecraft or Roblox, and we see all of these kind of games that have received mass levels of adoption. And really, it's about people who can come in and create their own experiences in their own worlds. And I think that VeVe is really opening the doors to what they have to offer, but they're also providing you with avenues to expand upon that and build out your own worlds. And I think that that's really what's going to get the users in the door.
Let's jump over to Ready Player Me integration right now. Kelly, when you look at just what's been done here, especially from an avatar standpoint, do you feel like this is in a position now where it solidifies RPM as kind of just the avatar king right now? What are your thoughts?
I think definitely Ready Player Me is a big player in the avatar space, and I'm really happy to see that VeVe chose to collaborate with them, because I know they have already a lot of projects they work with. So and their avatars are also cross-functional. So you can take your same avatar, you can take it to other spaces like spatial, or then you can take it to VeVe. So I really loved seeing that they collaborated with them.
Integration.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think this was, to me, that was a cool one. One of our team, they were building my Metapol version this weekend, and they sent it over to me on Ready Player Me, so it was kind of a cool integration. But do you think with VeVeVerse versus, say, Spatial IO, who's going to win this kind of combatants here? What do you think, Foster?
Oh,
there
boy.
I am.
Similarly to how people make FA debates with collectibles and where the true value kind of rises from, I think that the project that's going to win is the project that's going to offer a fully immersive experience and make it so that people want to be on that platform. And I think that Spatial so far has done an absolutely fantastic job. I would say they're definitely leading the race currently with the technical capabilities and kind of the experience that they're offering. But really, if you look at it, or at least through my lens, the vast majority of people that were using Spatial were people that were into VeVe anyways. So I think what you're going to see happen is that as VeVe as a company is able to, entice you, give you in-game rewards, or, give you points for engaging on the platform, logging in, going to other people's, metaverse homes, etc. I think the platform that you're going to see win out is the one that gives people not just a reason to come, but a reason to stay. And I think that that's really what was hammered home to me this weekend when I was seeing the previews. And that's something that I believe will probably push VeVe beyond anything else, including even the bigger companies like Meta currently. You're just going to have a reason to be there and stay on. So.
Yeah, it's interesting because when you look at the early adopters of Metaverse and really where we think Metaverse is going, I mean, you have obviously a monster like Meta spending billions of dollars. Then you have someone like VeVe launching VeVeVerse. You have Nike going out with their connection to Artifact and what will most likely be a Metaverse play at some point. And then you have Disney. Disney now, Iger steps back in. He was kind of known for his connection to the Metaverse component from a technical standpoint. So Disney could be in this game very quickly. You look at the landscape, I mean, there's some really good players right now starting to percolate to the top, where I think a lot of people have looked at Metaverse in general as, well, there's not really a use case for it. And I think all that's being kind of disproven now. Nike kind of rolled out their deal. I know Disney's going to pull something. You've got VeVeVerse here, and Meta, we already kind of know what's happening there. I want to jump to the content slide that they had up here. Let's cut to that, guys. So they had VeVe digital collectibles, artwork, comics, etc. Accessories now, introducing kind of an accessories sector for it. Non-VeVe NFTs now going with the wallet. So that's kind of cool. And then crowd sourced content. Some of these guys weren't very good at filling out their slides. But anyway, crowdsourced content, platform for people, artists submit 3D content, and then also could be minted on. So when you look at content in general, I know that was a very basic set of content elements. Kelly, do you see any other future opportunities here that you think are going to get expanded on in the content area?
Yeah, what definitely stood out to me was basically integration of other Web3 projects that you could basically get in your other Ethereum NFTs, such as Bored Ape Yacht. You can bring them to your VeVe space and VeVe home. So this is the first time that VeVe is basically showing that it's going to be interoperable. But also, like when they touched upon that, the whole space will be customizable. So I really see the opportunity here to also come, like, for brands, for designer furniture, or
I think that's a good example. What do you think about utility? Continue with you, Kelly. More utility on the comic book side of things, because I think that still is a huge opportunity there. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, the comics and showroom is really like this running theme in the VeVe community already. So we've been waiting for that for a long time. So, and that's what they said, that we finally will have like the comics displayable in our VeVeverse homes there. So definitely huge
I think this is just
and
it's just the beginning. I think they have a lot of things in the roadmap that we're going to get a chance to see. It's always exciting because I follow Foster and you and Kyle, one of our guys that we've had on the show before, and it's fun to see so much excitement from the VeVe community, but a lot of times there's a lot of really good quality speculation in terms of what could be next. So everybody's thinking through this. It's almost like VeVe has a great fan source in terms of almost like a study group, to understand what's going to be our next play. All right, let's talk about accessories and collectible sales. Foster, do you think that is maybe a potential of accessories starting to accelerate in volume versus what we've seen in the collectible side?
100%, and that really goes back to the concept of mass adoption and giving someone a reason to come in the door, and then once they're in the door, reason for them to stay. And I think that one of the biggest issues that VeVe is going to have with the collectibles they have on the platform right now is that, if they're targeting, 20, 50 million users eventually, a lot of these collectible runs have, 10, 20,000 editions maybe. And for the average person, you're just not going to be able to come in and purchase any of this. So, what is going to be your reason to remain in the metaverse? And, Kelly did a great job of, touching on Ready Player Me and what that will bring to the table. And I think accessories will also bring that other layer that makes people want to remain in the space, because you'll still be able to customize your showroom or your piece of land that you purchase, have friends come over and check out what you have, but you're not limiting it to, maybe 500 or 1,000 pieces. So people can really still get creative,
That's
a low barrier to entry. I'm sure that the prices won't be too high. So it's just one other reason to want to come in and enjoy kind of your virtual piece of real estate.
But I do want to thank our sponsors today. That is Gala Games. Make sure and check them out. If you're into blockchain gaming, or maybe you're just trying to start your exploration in Web3, this is your one-stop shop, because everything from music to film, all of that available over at Gala Games. You can just jump over to their website, check out the game section. They've got everything from Superior, Spider Tanks. We've dropped a lot about that. Townstar, one of the more popular ones. Fortitude coming soon. And many, many more, including Battlestar Galactica. Don't forget Grit and some of the others that are really some of these graphical phenomenons. But just check them out. Just go to gala.games or games.gala.com. Check them out. We'll leave a link below in the description. What do you guys think in terms of when we'd be able to kind of buy and sell directly within VeVeverse? What do you think in terms of a roadmap? Kelly, do you think that's a 2023 possibility, or what are your feelings on that?
To buy like the accessories directly, like from the virtual space.
Think inside some of the accessories, a lot of the collectibles themselves within VeVeverse as a whole. Do you think that's something that is coming earlier? Obviously, we don't have any information, so we're speculating here. But I'm just kind of curious in terms of development, based on the speed in which they've done development so far. We kind of know what that shows, and then obviously the releases that we saw there at VeVeverse. Do you think this plays out next year, or is this more of a long-term thing?
Yeah, I think because next year is really going to be the focus on all the VeVeverse. So I see, and we have seen in other metaverse projects. I think Helix was the one where you already see the technology, so it's already there. So they just have to implement it. So and seeing their roadmap and how they really, like, in each quarter they focus on a further iteration upon the VeVeverse. I do see them that it could be a possibility that we see that in the coming year.
Referencing your roadmap or the roadmap they were showing, here's the rollout schedule for some of you guys that didn't get a chance to see it. Phase 1, Q1 2023, the home space and accessories comes out. Phase 2, Q2 2023, we get the worlds, so VeVe City, IP branded worlds, potentially coming into play. That's going to be interesting. And then phase 3, this will be Q3. This is customizable avatars, and then gamification coming up in Q4. All right, out of those things that are happening in next year, Foster, what's most exciting to you? What do you feel like out of all these things, this is where I'm really looking forward to?
For sure. I would definitely say VeVe City in the IP branded worlds is something that's going to get me the most excited. And kind of the reason for that is maybe twofold. One, you really start to see the connections that these brands are making with their commitment to the metaverse. So I'll give you a perfect example. No specific brands have been named yet as being part of this branded city, but let's say that there is a Disneyverse or an actual physical, section of the VeVeverse that is dedicated, specifically to Disney. I think once you start to see that, it just really starts to empower and onboard, a plethora of new users that you haven't been able to yet. I think Disney Plus has about 130 million monthly subscribers, and I'm sure people share accounts as well. So as you can imagine, that's an entirely, maybe a curated user base that you can start to bring on to the platform that either isn't familiar or hasn't taken that leap yet. So as you make it more familiar for people to want to come into an area that they know, as an example, I went to Disney this weekend, being in Anaheim. I would love to have that experience again, but I'm not willing to spend $600 to go for the day. But if I can go to it in a virtual sense and still interact with Minnie and Mickey and all of these princesses, that's something that I would really consider doing. So I think that that's kind of the next iteration, and that's what I'm really excited.
So, from a standpoint of direct competition, you think, okay, so look at Sandbox, Roblox, the potential here of what's happening in Metaverse today, Web3. Kelly, do you see anyone, after now what we've seen in terms of releases at VeVeverse and the potential here, none of this is yet complete, but we kind of know what the direction is. Do you feel like VeVeverse is now just automatically, and VeVe in general, automatically considered a leader in this sector for growth?
Yeah, so definitely I see the VeVeverse as one of the top players in the metaverse space. Of course, there are other projects that also have, let's say, that are comparable in terms of the technology they use or the offerings they have. However, in the end, it all comes down to if they are able to attract like the masses and the core community, because you want people to have a reason to really go and hang out in these spaces. For me, for example, I checked out Spatial, but I never really used it. I never really had a reason to really go there and hang out there. But for example, VeVe will be for me a space where I would want to hang out. But I think similar to social media, there will be probably different metaverses that people will use for different use cases.
Right.
But yeah, given the IP, given the already strong community that is behind VeVe, I really see them as one of the top and or the potential to be one of the top players in the coming years.
I think I would agree, because the one thing for sure, just the communities is somewhat rabid in the sense of when you look at how quickly it responds to content, and the collector community as a whole, I think will also migrate into what we'll see in the metaverse side of things. I want to stay with you on this, but I have something special for you as well. But I want to get into this, and that is fashion coming in Q3. All right, if we see, because there's been a lot of players in this. I'll go back to Nike, but you look at Balenciaga, Dolce & Gabbana. There's several different players that have truly stepped up to the plate and said, "Hey, we're going to build on Web3." Where do you think fashion for VeVe comes in the play out, say, through next year? And Kelly, we'll stay with you. Not that I'm just looking for a female's opinion of this.
Yeah, I really think fashion could be a huge win for VeVe once they integrate it, because yeah, although there is already a strong, let's say, female community in VeVe, it is still a minority group, let's say. And that is because I think that still the VeVe offering mainly caters to like males. But once we will integrate fashion, I think there will be a lot more that will speak to also a female community. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that, and I think it will be a huge opportunity for VeVe to also bring in more female.
For me, I have a hard time just dealing with fashion in the regular multiverse, much less having to worry about it inside a metaverse. Foster, okay, so when you think, let's talk about gamification now, okay? And we're showing some stuff up there from DressX and a lot of other places that have really done some pretty interesting things. By the way, check out all of our videos, because we've done several on fashion in the metaverse, where we think a lot of these guys are going and where the potential is. So I still think it's a huge opportunity. But Foster, I want to jump into gamification now. And this is an opportunity for VeVe to really kind of separate from the pack. Other than Meta, which has a little bit of potential there, and again, they could do some acquisitions, sure. They could accelerate their whole situation. But how do you think gamification works out for VeVeverse, and do you think there's going to be anything unique or different that starts to play out here?
Yeah, it's a great question, and really what it boils down to is kind of the theme of what we've spoken to up until this point. You give people a reason to come in then collecting the collectibles, but you need to give them a reason to stay. In the world that we live in now, it's instant gratification for that's what people need to keep them going. So right now, the biggest complaint on VeVe is, I can buy collectibles, and sure, I can view them in augmented reality, and if I'm really creative, I can make showrooms, but that's a very small subset of the community. What people are really looking to be able to do with these collectibles is interact with them, play with them in games that they already know and love, or new games that are being curated in order to enjoy these experiences. So I think gamification doesn't necessarily just need to be, hey, we created a video game. I think that there's definitely different, levels of gamification, whether it be simply that it just interacts with you, or you can use a collectible that you own as an avatar in the VeVeverse, and that is a form of gamification. But I think what that really opens the door and allows us to do is just give us a reason to continue to come back, to customize, to accessorize, to show off to our friends, and it just keeps up engagement and keeps people wanting to stay in.
This is going to be, to me, the one thing that I think makes a metaverse or a Web3 solution become the thing. When you look at the capacity of what we've seen with social media and, just the dopamine, analysis of why social is so popular, especially as you start to get into things that are around these fan communities. I think this would be a big factor of really success. And we get a chance to talk to a lot of game devs, and really we break down into a lot of really good games. And if you follow where gamification is happening in Web3, and we see this play out, whether it's in VeVeverse or other metaverses, I think you're right, Foster, it's going to be a big part of this. Let's talk about NFTs, and then I want to jump into just analysis of the industry and what's some of the tools that are out there. But let's talk about NFTs for a minute. First of all, a lot of frames at DCon. I saw more and more tweets, I think, than ever of just all the variations of just digital display frames that really are NFT picture boxes. But when you look at that, I don't know. What are you guys' thoughts? And this is kind of for both of you. Do you think that's something we're going to see more growth on, or do you feel like this eventually is just going to this is a fad? What are your thoughts there? Kelly, let's kick off with you.
In general, I think when it comes to the NFT and the concept of the technology, we barely started to scratch the surface of what NFTs can be in the future. And basically, the first iteration of NFT has been in the arts space and also in the collectible space. And I think definitely for now it has been really limited to kind of showcase your digital NFTs and collectibles, like in your mobile phone or on a laptop. And for a lot of people, this has been kind of then like they are laughing at the people collecting NFTs. So once we get into having this technology to really showcase also our collections or our art in our homes. I think this is a huge step forward. So I don't think this is a fad, but especially like at least for the coming years, this will be something really that people will embrace.
I still think it's that we should be leaping past this into some sort of holographic image or device that would enable us to because these are physical to a certain extent, and they don't necessarily. I mean, yes, they're cool. I like that. It's not any more than a really good high quality canvas print. Yes, there's some potentials there for functionality from the NFT side. When you look at this going into kind of this next level, do you guys think that we'll ever get to the point where we'll be maybe self-custody on our own NFTs or collectibles themselves, much like what we do on crypto? What do you guys think? Let's go with you, Foster.
Yeah, so I think that is also a very important question that a lot of the investors on the platform care about now. I think that there is definitely a subset of people who just come on to collect, but they're, coming from the crypto side, having self-custody is obviously a very important function of crypto. Not your keys, not your coins, definitely applies to digital collectibles or non-fungible tokens as well. So I think as time goes on and, we will start to see those self-custody options become available. I think that, and understandably so, these licensors are they're taking their time to navigate the space. This is still very new. Blockchain technology is really still in its infancy. So I think that a lot of these companies, they don't make decisions quickly. Disney does not just jump into something with the hopes that it's going to work out. They're going to do their time. They're going to do their due diligence to make sure that if they're going to do something, it's in their best interest of not only their intellectual property, but of the people that are owning that intellectual property from them. So I think, once they can be confident of the fact that, people aren't just immediately going to be scammed. The education becomes better on the user base front, and these self-custody storage options continue to improve. The last thing that I think VeVe wants or any of us wants is, interoperability to start tomorrow. And then, 20% of the user base just gets immediately scammed out of their NFTs with a phishing scam or something like that. So I think that the education is the first piece that comes. And then with that education comes the security of knowing that, their assets are going to be protected and it benefits both parties. And then at that point, I think we start to open up that door. It just may not happen as quickly as people would like, but at the same time, it needs to happen in order for people to truly feel that they own these. And so it needs to happen one way or another eventually.
Yeah, I mean, the traditional collectors, but even more so the fact that we've already seen this, from a massive adoption scale in traditional crypto is, self-custody has become kind of the thing to do over time. I feel like this is just an evolution that is going to happen within the NFT space. So it's just a matter of time, I think, before we start to see it really start to occur. Anything outside of that, just when you kind of step back and you would look at where VeVe is today, and you guys both obviously follow this space very closely. I'll start with you, Kelly. What do you think, if you could say, hey, these are some of the real interesting things that I am looking forward to, whether they have even talked about them or potentially even not yet discussed it. As a huge fan, a big connoisseur of the space, what would you like to see coming from VeVe in the next, say, year or two?
In terms of brands and IPs, for me personally, I'm still waiting on some anime-based or Japanese IPs. Right. I think and I think I'm not alone. I think we have a huge fan base also that is into that. But yeah, in general, I'm really looking forward to what they are building with the VeVeverse and the experiences there. To start to have more this kind of social engagement also on the app. As for now, all the social part is taking place mostly on Twitter or via YouTube. But then, as they build out their social functionalities, so that's also something I'm really looking forward to.
How about you, Foster?
Something that really hit home for me, being at DesignerCon this weekend and having the opportunity to interact with Dan and David and the rest of the team is that, they're really doing a better job of not so much focusing on, hey, we're going to do this in 2 years. Hey, we're going to do this in 3 years. It's really, focusing on what we can deliver and then not announcing things until things are actually complete. So as a perfect example, the game that was released this weekend, which I'm not going to say the name of because I'll absolutely butcher it, but they're adding in play to earn and play to burn games. They're adding in, interactive functionality with that. So for me, what I'm looking for them to continue to do is just continue to focus on the deliverables that they're focused on. But I'm also very much passionate on the crypto side. So I'm looking forward to the integrations and hoping that they can continue to integrate the OMI token into the platform and continue to give it a use case so that we can not only bring in those native users from crypto, but obviously reward the holders that are already invested in the token and continue to push that narrative moving forward as well.
Yeah, I think both are good topics because I think these are achievable too. I think these are something that could happen pretty quickly. And the likelihood, and we all kind of know how VeVe is, they are masters at marketing and understanding how to create pent-up demand, create that, that fan craze around it, and then does a great job in terms of just dropping, much like what they've done over obviously at DCon. Let's get into the technical side for a second, just in general, because this is something, from an aspect of really analyzing the collectibles market and really where the direction is going with OMI. We look at it from token aspects, but we don't dive into as much of it from, the NFT component of it. There's a couple of tools out there that we've used in the past. VMate is one, just from a collector side of thing. The one I'm more active on is, of course, Ecomi Wiki, which gives us a little bit more tool sets in there. Are there, and I want to mention yours too, VeVeFox, because you've got one that, the VVX tracker right here. When you guys are looking at these different tool sets and you step back and you look at ways to identify, because this is probably one of the biggest challenges. I know for me, I would say I'm, an entry-level collector, but we have others in our team that are more avid collectors. They really understand how to do a drop and, really know which way to go with a particular, asset. What are some of the things that you guys look for when you look at some of these technical components and products out there that can help you as an investor in these collectibles make fairly decent moves? VeVeFox, we'll start with you since you've kind of built one here with VeVeX Tracker. What are you looking for that kind of says, hey, Paul, this is some of the direction at least I'm going in terms of looking at data?
Yeah, so the initial idea behind building this tracker was specifically that due to VeVe being on a closed ecosystem, there wasn't really any tool or platform where investors could check the main statistics. They could check for other NFT projects, such as the daily trading volume, like how many buyers, how many sellers, how many activity is there in general with the NFT. So as soon as they migrated to the Immutable X blockchain, I saw the opportunity that via the API that is provided by Immutable X, I could pull that data and, well, at least build like a simple tool where investors can check these kind of metrics, because I think it's important to, especially to follow the sentiment of the project, to see, okay, so how many wallets or users are actually active on a daily basis, how many are buying, how many are selling. And yeah, what we are seeing right here is kind of the top 100 leaderboard, where we can track the top 100 collectors of VeVe. So this is something that a lot of people gave feedback. This is super interesting for them. They also always want to follow kind of the whales in a project.
Yeah.
So here you can basically see, are they still accumulating or are they starting to dump? So for me, it has been very assuring to always see that our whales and top collectors, they were always still accumulating, and there was never really a phase where they were kind of starting to dump.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was looking at that list, and you're exactly right. I think it's intriguing to me how this. I mean, some of these guys are. I mean, this one right here, this address alone, 875 purchases, which is pretty significant. Do you think that we're going? Okay, let's go into the aspect of onboarding, and Foster, I want to hit you. Is there a tool that you're using as well to kind of look at some of the metrics overall? I mean, we don't have a coin market cap or a trading view for this right now. So what are you using to help kind of decipher this?
For sure. So, I mean, Kelly obviously does a great job with VVX Tracker. Ecomi Wiki is one that I've definitely used myself as well. There's also a couple other members of the community that have built out their own platforms as well. And I think the great thing that all of these platforms allow people to do is knowledge is power, and it just
Yeah.
arms you with the that you wouldn't get otherwise. So, one of the things that I would say that VeVe, we don't have the capability of right now on the platform is being able to really assess, is price being manipulated of a specific collectible? Is this actually selling? Are people just putting up walls, and kind of what's happening with that? So the great thing about, something like a Ecomi Wiki is that you can actually go on and see, when did something sell? And you can take a look at, sales data. You can take a look at historical price levels for the last, 6 months or so, and kind of see what are the trends with these collectibles. I know a lot of people enjoy charting and patterns. So you can really start to look at that almost as a trader that you would do with, stocks or Forex. You can start to look at these trends and see, is there a pattern that I can take advantage of? Is this a good opportunity for me to enter, or is it a good opportunity for me to, possibly list and look to buy back at a lower level? So I think that, these platforms really give you that extra information that's just not available on VeVe currently. And once you're armed with that information, you can make the best informed decision that you can as to what you do with your collectibles.
Do you guys feel like the current bear market is really kind of still pushing a whole issue around NFTs down? Or do you think at some point there's got to be kind of a floor here of where this goes? Obviously, we've seen what's happened with Bored Apes. We've seen this happen with, Moonbirds and many others that have been somewhat of the high flyers in the traditional NFT side outside the collectibles community. Um, but what are your thoughts, Kelly? Do you think are we nearing a floor here? Is there, maybe this is totally irrelevant or uncorrelated to the traditional, crypto markets? Where do you see it going?
I think we have seen in the past weeks or during this bear market that we are not that uncorrelated to the traditional markets, that
Yeah.
it's still affecting. So when all this debacle started with the FTX, we have seen that collectibles and NFTs were also sold for people to gain liquidity. So yeah, it's affected by these kind of things. Although I think we are kind of hitting a floor. So you never know. I mean, there might be another Black Swan event that will
Sure.
hit make us go even lower. But yeah, the sentiment is already, or the market has cooled down a lot. So I think those that are still in the space are the ones that are still
Yeah, they're here for the
believe
long
that
term.
the technology. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
for sure. And I think that's another factor too, because capitulation to a certain extent that does start to at least create some sort of baseline value. Where at that point forward, now we're waiting for some of the key elements, those fundamentals that are dropped usually through news stories or advancements in a technology or an acquisition, those kind of things. That's when new people start coming back into the market, and we see an uplift, and we start to see that guiding out. Obviously, we track a lot of macro trends here on our network, which also play into what happened over at FTX, which has a trickle-down effect into projects like OMI and even OMI to a certain extent. When you look at OMI right now, Foster, thoughts on OUP versus and just OMI staking in general. Do you like this? Is it something you're practicing? How would you tell a new person coming into an OMI token right now? Would you stake or would you not stake? How would you play it?
We don't have enough time on this show for me to give my full thought. What I'll boil it down to for these purposes is, I'm incredibly excited. I've been invested in the project since April of 2021, and so I've really had the opportunity from the very beginning to see all of the ups and downs, see all of the the missed deadlines, and the integrations, and just really
Yeah.
be able to make a fully informed opinion. So the OMI utility program is really going to open up a lot of doors for people that weren't previously available, and I think that the team really went about it the right way by taking the time that they needed to take in order to actually curate a program that would be accessible to everyday users and would make people want to use the platform. And I think the perfect example of that is, with exchanges right now, we don't really know who to trust. And we've talked about, not your keys, not your crypto already on this show. I think that, being able to easily access and access your crypto or your NFTs is going to be so important. So I think one of the integrations of OUP that will allow that to happen is going to be purchasing OMI on the web app directly. So
Yeah.
what that will allow people to do is just really, get the amount of money that they need in OMI to take advantage of these other integrations that are coming in OUP in a timely fashion. And, we kind of look at it as, people will always say, well, how many holders do we need in order for OMI to be successful? Do we need, a million? Do we need a few million? And they'll just throw out kind of arbitrary numbers. But I think what people are starting to realize now is that the more successful VeVe is as a project, the more successful the OMI token will be. And we look at projects like, Fortnite that have V-Bucks. And, people don't really think about the fact that a V-Buck, for all intents and purposes, could be a cryptocurrency. And people really wouldn't need to know that. They would just need to be able to purchase it in order to buy their in-game skins, which for our equivalency is, your accessories or your NFT. So it just really opens up that door. It's going to be really exciting to see, 5-10 million people all purchasing this OMI token that they really don't even need to fully understand, but know that it just very easily integrates them to the rest of the VeVe app and the VeVeverse. And that's really what I'm looking forward to.
All right. Last question I have for both of you, and I'd love your answers, is OMI versus NFT, the token versus, going in on the collectible side. I kind of think I know where each of you are going to fall, but Kelly, let's start with you.
I think this is a really hard question. And I can really do the argument for both.
Okay, give me the argument for both. Yeah, I'd love it.
Because I'm also invested in OMI. It was actually the first thing I was invested when it came to the whole VeVe Ecomi journey. But also I see a lot of potential for the NFTs. For OMI, I think it's just because it's, as we have seen with the OUP program, it will be really an integral part of the whole ecosystem. And they have done a good job to really integrate that token and to give it a lot of utility, and also with the burn mechanism. It just makes sense if you believe in the project as a whole that you would invest in the token. Because it will succeed as long as the company succeeds. Of course, then as a collector, you really don't want to miss out on all those amazing collectibles that VeVe offers and what you can do with them in your showroom and in the VeVeverse. So, of course, you always, that's the argument to really go also for the collectibles, because your OMI you won't be able to showcase in your video.
Exactly. Yeah, but the good thing about it is with OMI, if we do see those kind of growths, you get to showcase something I think that's even better. Profit, baby, profit. All right, how about you, Foster?
Yeah, it's a great question. And a lot of people who watch my channel on their own time will obviously assume that my answer would just be straightforward OMI. But, it's worth noting as well that I've collected over 700 collectibles / comics on VeVe over the last year and a half. And as someone who was never a physical collector, it's been very interesting to kind of partake on this journey and really start to, discover some fandoms that, I kind of knew that I had, but have really been able to take advantage of thanks to VeVe. So always enjoyed the collecting, and there'll be certain pieces that I think will especially if you landed them on drop, will outperform the market long term, your partner statues, your secret rare Spider-Mans, and a few others. But I think long term, one of the nice things about the OMI token and what gets me so excited about it is it's really it's like investing in an entire market rather than just counting on one specific stock. You could like Apple as a company, but if the tech sector goes down, then maybe your entire portfolio is crushed. Whereas if you're investing in OMI, you're really banking on VeVe as a company and the entire platform being successful. So that's kind of what I look forward to when it comes to the OMI token, and kind of what my bullish sentiment is it's never going to be about getting millions of people to own the OMI token. It's going to be about getting millions of people to utilize the VeVe app. And as more people utilize the VeVe app, the more correlated OMI becomes within VeVe, the more successful that the token should become. So that's why I primarily focus, at least from a financial standpoint, on the OMI token.
Yeah, and I think, from an investor standpoint, people will look at the token if they're not a collector, just because they see it as a potential Web3 opportunity and they're playing Web3. But for me, I'm kind of in, both sides of it. I'm really more of an investor, but over time, I'm starting to learn a lot more about the collectible side. I have 2 young children, so they kind of get you down a rabbit hole, and you start to explore these things that a lot of times were your own childhood, fantasies about, comic book heroes and all that kind of stuff. And you get a chance to learn for the first time more about the project. So that to me is kind of the hidden gem behind understanding collectibles as a whole, which is the cool part. I think it's also why it's so, dramatically popular right now within the collector community. It's kind of, it's the modern day evolution of where we're going to go with all of this. So definitely see how this is going to play out for the future. Foster, Kelly, it's been great having you on the show today. Thank you so much for stopping in. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
You bet. All right, so you guys are tuned in over on the podcast side of things right now. Maybe what you should do is jump over to our crypto podcast, which is called TechPath Crypto. And then if not that, then jump over here to the YouTube channel. This is where you're going to catch all these great graphics, a lot of these interviews, and also some of our own analysis. And a lot of times when we do trade level details, when we get into the traditional crypto, you can catch all that over here on Paul Barron Network on, of course, YouTube. And if you guys want to catch me, it's out there on Twitter at Paul Barron. We'll catch you next time right here on Metaverse Insider.